Greetings. Welcome everyone to another live chat edition, live chat number 35. An interesting topic for today. Maybe some of us can relate to this. I'm gonna wait a minute, see who's joining, and whoever is joining, let me know where you are joining from so I can give you a shout out. It's always interesting to see how international these live chats can be. And of course, that is the goal, is to share the messages and the lessons I've learned with all of you, no matter where you are. And that is the benefits of social media and live streams and the internet and this beautiful platform, currently StreamYard. So again, if you're joining, let me know where you're joining from. I can give you a shout out. And if this is your first time joining, I'm Magna Gopal. This is my monthly live chat. This is edition number 35. So it's almost been 3 years that we've been doing this. The purpose of these live chats is to basically share the various lessons I've learned through experiences in my life, whether it's through dance or personal relationships or professional relationships. And, we're always hopefully trying to develop as individuals and grow and to become smarter, better communicators, have better relationships. And these are some of the lessons that I've been learning along the way. And why not share them? If I have the opportunity and if I have the platform, this is what I want to do with my time and with my content and with my social media. Hey, Michael, Boston in the house. Again, if you're joining, wherever you're joining from, let me know so I can give you a shout out. So this monthly live chat is the purpose of these live chats. If you have any questions, by all means, even if it's off topic, because I usually do try to structure these live chats with a topic in mind to keep it focused and to keep it organized. But if you have any questions that are not related to this topic, you can always throw them into the comments and I will make sure I either get to them now if I can, and if not, I will try to address them in a future live chat. The other place that you can leave your questions and your comments is in the feedback form. As always, I'm requesting your feedback because I want to know how you received this, how you enjoyed the discussion, if there were any points that I missed that I could address or elaborate further on, and if you have any questions or comments that maybe are too personal that you don't want to share publicly in the comment section. The feedback form is the place to do that. Wade in the house as well. Hi, Wade from Queens. Again, whoever's joining, let me know where you're from so I can say hi back to you. Michael's quick question. When you taught your first dance class, were you nervous? If so, how did you handle it? I'm teaching my dance fitness class this weekend and I have a few nerves. Michael, yes, I was nervous the first time I taught my first class ever. Actually, I think I taught a class with somebody else before I had a chance to teach my class alone. And the first class that I taught was in Boston in 2005. And it was a spin technique class. I had only about 30 minutes or 45 minutes to teach that workshop, but I swear to God, that entire week I had the nerves. I was nervous about teaching. I was wondering if I'm going to get it right, if I'm able to convey, the things that I know that I can do with my body to other people and get them to understand it in the same way. So it was nerve-wracking. I think you feeling that way is not uncommon and is completely normal. The way I handled it was through the preparation. I made sure that I didn't just show up to class and say, hey, look, I'm really good at spinning. And so I don't really need to do anything else other than show up and just talk about whatever comes to mind and blurt it out in any fashion whatsoever. Similar to these live chats, I could very easily talk on any of these topics that we have free, off the mind, off the cuff rather, but I prefer to prepare in advance. I want to have some structure. I want to know where I'm taking my audience, or my students. I want to know how I'm going to introduce the subject, how I'm going to break down the technique, how I'm going to explain what to do and what not to do, but also why. how those things have worked for me or how they didn't work for me. And so the preparation is what allowed me to feel much more confident and comfortable when it came to actually delivering the class. And of course, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. But I never approach any class, even if it's a repetition of something I've done multiple times. Spins workshops are a perfect example. That was one of my specialties when I first started dancing over 20 years ago. And even though I do that workshop on a regular basis, I still make sure I review my outline, my preparation. I think about what new information I have since the last time I taught. Were there any questions that I received that I haven't really implemented into my actual program? And how could I adapt the existing program to accommodate those questions? Because just because one person asked it doesn't mean that many people are not thinking it. So, not sure if that helps, but if you know your stuff, that's the first step. If you feel confident about what you know, that's the second step. The third step would be, how do you present it in a way to other people that they can enjoy it and that they can follow along in a structured way? Because it's one thing to do a dance class and just kind of have everyone follow a movement and you keep changing the movements and everyone's moving. So they're excited about the moving part of it, but they're not really learning anything. And regardless of what approach you take, if it's just to get people moving, that's great too. But if you are focused on getting people to learn and understand the technical details, then a little bit of preparation and structure makes a big difference. Edwin from Netherlands. Hey, Edwin, nice to see you here. If I remember correctly, we had a very interesting dance. I think it was in The Hague with the crazy wild move where it looked like I was going to flip on my back, but somehow miraculously matrixed myself out of that move. um, for those of you joining, again, let me know where you're joining from. Also, if you are checking out this live chat, you enjoy these live chats, another place for you to enjoy kind of more concise, detailed information and tips and feedback and lessons is my Empowered with Magna podcast. That is available wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google Music, etc. I don't even know all of the other platforms, but literally anywhere you want to listen to it, you can find that information there. And of course, if you would like to support the channel, if you want to support me and the work that I do, if you find value in it, of course, that would be the main thing. But an easy way to do that is just to hit subscribe, like, share it, leave a comment. And if you're feeling extra generous, there's a link in the description to buy a virtual coffee. I am just drinking water, which I need to make sure I do this a little bit more during my live chats because I talk a lot. Couple of announcements, and there's also a comment from my Facebook that I want to discuss before we jump into the topic. First big announcement is the Master Your Multiples program. A lot of you have been asking, a lot of you have signed up to the wait list. You should have already received an email. But for everybody else, I will be officially launching that tomorrow. But whoever's here, you kind of get a little early access to it. The Master Your Multiple Spins program is starting again. The enrollment is currently open. Enrollment ends on February 14th. You can go to spins.magnagopal.com to go check that out. This is a 14-week program. The first week is introductory calls, setting up a schedule. You get direct access to me throughout the program. We have bi-weekly coaching calls where you submit weekly videos and forms with your feedback and any questions you have, and we address all of those. So it's a very personalized program designed to help you master your multiple spins. It's broken down all the way from your body posture, your technique, positioning, certain aspects of spins like pedaling, stopping, how to control your momentum, spotting, all of those details. And it slowly progresses from single, double to multiple spins. So if you are interested in improving your spins, not just your spins, but your dancing in general, this is a great program to do. And again, like I said, you have direct access to me throughout the program. And that personalized feedback makes a huge difference. And if you want to go check it out, spins.magnagopal.com. Again, registration ends on February 14th. The official tutorials kick off on February 18th. And then we start with our coaching calls. And of course, everything that you learn in that program, the details, the technical elements, your fundamentals, those are all things that you can apply to your dancing, whether you're lead, whether you're a follow. You can implement that into your footwork, your styling, any type of creativity you want to add. So it goes way beyond just spins. Just so you all know that. And if you have any questions, of course, just shoot me a message, magnagopal.com. Go to the contact section and you can let me know, or you can send me a message on social media as well if you need anything. All right, with that being said, again, anyone who's joining, let me know where you're joining from so I can say hi. I know I sound a little bit like a broken record with that, but I really like to know where everyone's joining from, and I want to say hi to you guys, as I know this is a one-way video, and so the only way to know who I'm talking to is through the comments. Hey, Hazen from Houston. Wade's question following up to Michael's question was, how was the feeling after teaching that first time? It was exhilarating. After teaching my first class and seeing the progress in that class, the students actually understanding them, implementing the technique, and them feeling confident and comfortable with spins, like there's really nothing like it. And that kind of ties into the Master Your Multiples program too, is the ability to like work with people, because typically when I'm traveling or if I'm teaching one-off workshops or intensives, and they are a one-day process. It's not really an extended process. So I don't really get a chance to work with somebody unless I'm doing packages of private lessons and private coaching. I don't get a chance to work with people and see you week to week and see your progress and get to give you feedback on that progress, and then see you progress even further. And it's so rewarding to feel like you've contributed to somebody else's journey, to their growth, to them achieving their goals, and to them experiencing sense of fulfillment, accomplishment, achievement, and really ultimately getting a chance to express themselves authentically. So hi, Guillermo from California. Welcome, welcome. All right, so I want to talk about a comment that I received before I go into the topic of control freaks. And actually, on that topic of control freaks, tell me in the comments, okay, be honest, if you feel like you might be a little bit of a control freak. Maybe not all the time, maybe sometimes, but let me know if you feel like you're that person who's a little bit more controlling in most situations or dominating in most situations, versus perhaps someone who's just like, I'll just take the lead from whoever tells me what to do, where to do, and when to do it, and how to do it. Okay, let me know in the comments. I am curious, because I would love to understand how other people relate to the idea of control, exercising control, and letting go of control. And this comment on Facebook actually kind of ties into that too. So I had posted a video, a short clip, a reel with one of my favorite dancers. This was from a video from a dance rather in Batumi, Georgia. And this was with Samuel. His name is Fun Flow. And we had a lovely dance. We had a lot of space on the dance floor to enjoy, to play, to move around. And somebody replied, and the name of the channel or the person is interesting too. Real Salsa Dancers Club. Gotta love the reality there and the confidence there as well. And the comment was, please, what do you call what you're doing? It's so sad. Okay. Now, I am not, a stranger to criticism. I have gotten it all my life. I continue to get it. When I first started dancing, when I first started exploring with my own personal creativity and expression and connection with my partner, musicality wise, or inserting different types of movements or playing with the music in a way that was kind of not conforming to the traditions and the norms of what salsa dancing started out as, I got criticized, and I still get criticized. And it was interesting because I replied to the person and said, sad is the last word that would come to mind, because if you see the dance, we're having fun, we're laughing, we're playing, we're smiling with each other. We are the people that happen to be sitting around watching us are also smiling and laughing with us, in the same moments. The dance itself is very musical, connected to the intricacies of the music. It's creative in terms of the turn patterns and the footwork. It's playful in the back and forth kind of nonverbal banter that we're having. Sad is the last word that would come to mind. This, by the way, is on my Facebook page if you're interested in actually watching that reel and seeing the comment thread. I won't go through the entire details of the comments, but this person basically said, maybe you should dance to the clave and stop doing so many hustle turns. And he said, thank you. And so I just replied, you're welcome. Because I don't like to personally engage too much with this. And I highly recommend that if you are posting things, especially of your own creative expression and moments that are fun and enjoyable to you, do not engage with trolls. It's really not worth it. And in this case, so my response to this person was, you're welcome. And then there was a long message, two threads of a message coming up with, no disrespect meant. It's just academy dancers take away from old school dancers, showing no respect to other dancers on the dance floor. People should be dancing on the clave. And if you're not teaching that way, then you're teaching dance incorrectly. It's not about intricate turns. It's about simple turns and keeping a small profile, not trying to show off the turn patterns, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sorry if I offended, so I hope we can talk. But you kind of already started on the wrong foot. So there are a couple of things with this. With regards to our topic today about control, this is an element of trying to exercise control. Okay, you have a certain way of doing things. You have a certain experience with it. However you've learned it, and whatever way you approach it. Now you're trying to control the way other people express themselves and saying that whatever they're doing, because it's not the way you do it, is the wrong way and that they should change it. Like, that's trying to exercise control and influence something that is really not within your arena to influence. Second part of this is commenting, right? Like, I still don't quite understand why people take the time out of their day, out of the joy of their day that they could be enjoying, okay, in other ways, and take that time to be negative. Okay? There's nothing in that dance. There's nothing in that clip, but even that entire dance, which is like 5 minutes long, there's nothing in that dance that looks sad. That is the last word I would use. Maybe different, weird, sure, you could use those words and I would agree with you, because we all have different interpretations of what's normal. But sad is the last thing I would say. And so this person's personally offended and annoyed by this expression of two people who are clearly enjoying themselves and took the time to write this. The second element of it is the commenting about the lack of connection to the clave. There are plenty of moments, sure, that we are playing off the rhythm, off the all outside of the beat of the clave or the basic step. But in those moments, we are perfectly synced to the actual music, the actual instrumentation. So are we still not dancing to the music just because we're not dancing to the very strict clave beat? Of course not. And then there's this element of, taking over the dance floor or showing off. Because people are watching doesn't necessarily mean the people being watched are showing off. They are having fun. And if someone happens to enjoy that and other people gather around to watch that, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're showing off. People are seeing them enjoying themselves, and enjoyment is contagious. And so sometimes we want to stop and observe. Okay. Now, there are people who do show off, and that's a different topic entirely. Then the aspect of taking over the dance floor is another thing that you can see in the video. There's nobody else dancing in that space. There was a later point or earlier point in the night. I think this is closer to the end of the night because we're quite drenched in sweat. And I think there's moments where I'm trying to wipe my sweat off my arms onto my skirt. But There's nobody else on the dance floor. We're not taking space away from anyone else. We are utilizing the space that is provided to us. And that's also different. And I would encourage personally, why would you limit yourself to small movements and what's the term here? I missed it. I lost where it is. But why would you limit yourself to being small and compact when you have the ability to use more space? Even if you learned a certain way, or if the general environment within which you dance is a compact, lots of people, crowded environment, you learned a certain way. When you get more space, you should try to use it, because it will impact how you process what you've already learned, what you already know. The more you try different things in different environments, in different settings, that's how you can truly solidify your understanding of anything itself. And so the reason I just want to comment on that is, one, I don't know. I don't think anyone here is that this type of person. But if you're one of those people who's commenting and just leaving negative comments for no reason, stop, check yourself, see what the purpose is. And if you're truly bothered by something that someone else is doing, first of all, this is their page, right? This is their social media account. And if they are sharing something of their life, this is their life. You, first of all, have no right to be talking about that. It's not your life. You can conduct your life in your own way. But two, understand, why are you bothered by something someone you don't know is doing? And why is it impacting you so strongly that you feel the need to comment, and not just comment in a constructive way, but comment in a negative way? And then on that point, first, if you don't like what you see, there are many other dancers to watch. There are people who dance very strictly to the clave and do not break that norm at all. And they're beautiful dancers. Go look for them and find them. And hopefully you have something positive to leave as a comment there. But if not, like, don't basically project what your norms, what your conventional experience might be onto other people, especially people that are enjoying themselves. Let them have their fun. If you don't enjoy it, you don't have to be a spectator to it. You can always walk away. And if you're going to comment and you can't be constructive, then don't comment at all. But pure negativity is just impacting you ultimately, because it's saying that you don't have control over your feelings about someone you don't know, that you can't even resist the urge to say something negative. Like, you're ruining your own day. And why? For whom? Who the hell are these people that you're watching? Like, yeah, I'm in that video, but who the hell am I to this person? I'm nobody to this person. There's no reason for me, for my dance to upset you so much that you feel the need to comment like that. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind for how we engage on social media, how we engage with other people's content. And if you really do have something super long or whatever to say, maybe try a direct message, but also think about your purpose in connecting and communicating to that person. Because if it's about art and if it's about expression and someone's having fun, let them have their fun. Do your own thing. There is enough room in this world of creativity and art for all of us to have our own authentic individual expressions, as far as I'm concerned. All right, couple comments. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this exchange? I mean, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the comments like that? Is this an exercise of control? Guillermo said, I used to be in control in the past. I feel it gave me confidence in making sure everything was under control. However, as time passed now, I let things go and flow without that much pressure on myself and trying to control. That's great. Wade, I mostly let go when there's friction and let someone take the lead. I know they would notice they were wrong, and I can take the lead with 100% from that person. That's how I interact with a person who's a control freak. All right. Anyone else who's joining, leave a comment. Let me know where you're joining from so I can give you a little shout out. And we are going to jump into today's topic. So some of you mentioned, you've had your experience with control, wanting to feel like you're in control, and slowly maturing to a point where you feel like you can let go of it. The This topic was inspired by a recent experience, and that's kind of where I learned this lesson. It made me think about it. And it was an event that I was recently organizing. I had to assemble a team. I had to coordinate the event. I had to conduct briefings. I had to delegate team leaders who had to conduct their own briefings with other team members. Lots of documentation to process, scripts, and all types of stuff. Lots of work involved. My perfectionism, my perfectionism kind of resulted in me doing a lot of the work, right? A lot of the legwork. And it was basically to make sure that uh, everything and everybody was on the same page and that we all understood the expectations and we all were holding ourselves to the same standards. So, in this particular event, I had created rosters for our participants, collected all the forms, created these documents to help the team with their roles, and these scripts to help them with their briefings. And of course, being the organizer of the event, I was attending majority of the briefings as well by my team leaders. And mainly because I had additional resources to share and I had to explain some of these details. And knowing kind of the overview of everything, I had questions I had answers to questions that perhaps those team leaders might not have had because their role was a little bit more narrow. And of course, as I am with pretty much everything I take on, I was really enthusiastic about everything that I had done, that I was planning on doing, and how I could help my team members, because I knew that I understood all of these other aspects of it. Now, there were two briefings in particular that I attended, conducted by two different team leaders, where I had a very different reaction and response to my enthusiasm, my inputs, my answers to questions. Right, and we'll get into this in a moment, but I guess where I want to go with this is understanding control. Right, so I looked up, well, what is the official definition of a control freak, and it is a person who feels an obsessive need to exercise control over themselves and others and take command of any situation. Control, in its essence, is just the ability to manage situations and outcomes, or wanting to try and manage situations and outcomes. And I feel that we all want some level of control in our lives, right? Now, my personality, if you've actually met me and spent a lot of time with me, whether it's a fun environment or work environment, you know that I can be kind of dominating sometimes. I'm definitely very enthusiastic about the things I do, and sometimes that's overpowering, right? Because I'm like, oh, we could do this or we could do that, and the energy is so strong that sometimes the people around me might not feel like they have a say. Right? Maybe they don't want to say. Maybe they want to go with the flow, but maybe they do have a say, but they just feel like it's too dominating, that energy, and I don't feel like I have a voice in this space. My history, my background, my dad was very OCD, very controlling, and I'm sure I picked up some of that from him. And also from a young age, I've been very independent. So I always had the freedom to do as I pleased, and I did. So I got used to making the decisions, like what to eat, where to go, what to do, how to do it. And that spilled into many of my earlier relationships, like friendships, personal romantic relationships, and kind of with the family, although there's a different hierarchy there. Then moving into my work life as an entrepreneur, specifically a solopreneur. So I'm really just working for myself. I don't necessarily have a team that I have to manage. I was also in control of what and how things are done and when they're done. Like I basically pick and choose what I want to do and when to do it. And that over the recent years has kind of spilled over into other professional areas where I am actually managing teams and people who have their own ways of doing things. So I'm going to go back to the event that I was organizing and the particular feedback that I had received, okay, from one of these team leaders. He basically explained what his expectation was as this team leader and his issue was with the perception of his role as that team leader and the outcome of the briefing where I was present, and that it did not meet his perception or expectations. So for those of you here, I'm curious, like, how would you respond here? Somebody tells you, I have an issue with what you did. You know, you did not meet my expectations, my perceptions. I have an issue with that. Just curious how you would, your initial gut response, kind of tell me that part. And I will continue with mine, but I am curious about your responses here. My gut response was to defend myself because for a second I felt like I was being attacked because I thought that I was enhancing the briefing. I was providing extra information. I was answering questions that I don't think he had the full information to, you know, the full knowledge about. And there were a lot of things that were kind of missed or skimmed over that I wanted to provide more detail. Now, though that was my gut response, I restrained myself. That was not the actual response that I gave. That was what I felt like saying, but I stopped myself and took a breath, thought about what he said, acknowledged the reality of his perception, right? Like maybe that's not actually what happened, what took place, but the reality is that this person perceived this person felt something, and that is real. And I want to be able to acknowledge that. Otherwise, what kind of relationship would we have? So what I did was that I apologized. Yep. I explained my overzealousness, my excitement for this event, and making sure that it was a successful event. And that was one of the reasons why I was interjecting as much as I was. In addition to the apology and trying to help him understand where I was coming from, I also set the standards for future briefings that I would not interject unless requested or until after his briefing was completed. And then I could add additional points, you know, if there was anything that was missed in there. And then I took one step further. As I mentioned, there were like 2 briefings in particular where I know I was participating enthusiastically. I'll say enthusiastically, but clearly from one person's perception, it was controlling. So I took one step further and reached out to the other team leader to apologize in case they felt that same offense or if they felt something similar, but they're just not the type of person to communicate it. And, you know, fortunately in that conversation, that person was actually very happy to have had the input and thought that it was a perfectly like dually organized committee briefing versus the person who had given me the original feedback, which was more like, it's my briefing. Even though you're the organizer, you're here to observe and comment only if asked. So these are some of the challenges, right? Like if we are in situations of managing other people or being in relationships with other people and we have a desire to control the outcome, it's very easy for us to lose sight of the relationship and maintaining that relationship. So I'm just going to address Guillermo's comment. Yeah, I guess there's always this delay, right? With with this online platform, I might say something and then I'll continue talking and ask for something, and then by the time something's written into the comments, I'm like into another topic. But Guillermo was talking about the Facebook comment, which is in regards to the negative comment of this person. I think he doesn't appreciate all the effort and the joy of your dance. Many of us feel greatly blessed to see your dance expression and enjoying it every time and delivering for so long. It's tremendously hard to be a high performance. In fact, thank you not just for all your performance in social dancing, but all that happens behind the scene, the moments of long hours of rehearsal, practice, and time not spent with family, sacrifice. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think your comment got cut off, but yeah, I think that a lot of people don't appreciate those other elements that go into becoming a higher level dancer or a performer or a teacher. There's so much behind the scenes, you know, that really doesn't get acknowledged in a comment like that. Thank you, Guillermo, for that input. Okay. So going back to this situation with this feedback, and the reason for today's topic is that I learned from this, right? I learned and I grew as a result of this. At the end of my event, I had told everybody in my committee, we had a little post event briefing, and I told everyone, I said, thank you for all of your support, obviously. Thank you for your assistance with everything. Thank you for pulling your weight in all these other ways and coming through where I needed extra assistance. And also thank you for your feedback. You might have been hesitant to say something, but I appreciate that you took the time and the courage to say it to me. I appreciate that you trust me enough to communicate openly and honestly. And I want you to know that I have grown as a result of your input and your feedback, and my growth, this particular growth in this area, would not have been possible without that feedback. So that really takes us into, we think like, oh, being controlling or being super assertive is a curse, and in a way it can be. But how do we transform that into a blessing? So couple of tips for us. These are like checklists, right? How to transform that need for control and for being assertive into a blessing. First thing is the situations where we do get feedback. First is to not be reactive, right? To not be defensive, to not go with that gut instinct. Because usually your gut instinct, if you hear anything that sounds like an attack that you might have misperceived as an attack, will be reacted to with a defense. And we don't want to go with that because you just end up creating a bigger rift between you and the other person. The second element is to be receptive, right? To be receptive to the feedback that you get and be open-minded to it. Like acknowledge the possibility that this is real and that maybe even though one person is mentioning it, maybe other people think it too. Right? Just because you receive that comment from one person doesn't mean that it's not true beyond that one person in other relationships and other engagements. And so being receptive to that feedback will allow you to improve in other areas as well. The third element is making sure you have created a safe space, a safe environment for open communication, right? For open lines of communication. And that is going to be through your personality, your attitude, your tone, your invitation for feedback. There are people, I'm sure we've all been in situations, it could be, even in a classroom setting or in a work setting or even in relationships, right? Romantic relationships or family relationships where the person comes in with such an energy that you just know off the bat you have nothing to comment. You should just keep your mouth shut and wait for your orders and nothing else, right? Do not offer any feedback. Do not offer any type of contradictions to whatever they say. No suggestions, no creative input, nothing. You just got to sit there and take whatever they bring to the table, and you either say yes or you say no, right? So the way you approach those relationships, personal relationships as well as professional team relationships, is to make sure you're bringing your warmest personality, a personality that inspires trust, that inspires vulnerability from other people, and that invites them to provide feedback. Next step would be humble, right? Like regardless of how much we know or we think we know, we still don't know it all. And things are always changing. So whatever we knew to be true and was true 1 year ago might not be true today, just because there have been so many developments in one area or another. And so we don't have all the answers. And that humility allows you to be more receptive to feedback as well, because you understand that this is not an opportunity, this is not an attack and saying you're dumb. This is an invitation to you to learn more, to be better. Another lesson is, or another element rather, is to be adaptable, right? And willing to quickly adjust and to use that feedback towards your growth. So in my situation, I could have said, okay, great, thank you for that feedback. Sorry about whatever I did, and then leave it at that. But instead, what I said was, I know I'm going to attend other briefings. I have to. Um, Here's how I'm going to immediately implement some change to improve our relationship and to acknowledge the feedback that you have given. And not only that, but I extended it even further, right? And which takes me to my next element here, which is to be willing to make amends, right? To apologize, to be able to say, I was wrong, or I could have done that better. And I'm if I did offend you, I'm sorry, and I'm not sure if I offended you, but if somehow you feel somewhere you feel any type of resentment or offense, I am sorry, right? And then another element is gratitude, right? There gratitude goes such a long way with every relationship. And so even when you receive feedback that is critical, when you can understand how it positively can impact you as a human being, as an individual, you you feel grateful for that opportunity to grow, right? And so for me, and like I said in the post event briefing, I said thank you. I said thank you to that person individually. I said thank you to that person in a group setting. I said thank you to the other people there as well who had provided different levels of feedback, because my growth would not be possible without that feedback. And if I thank you, if I am grateful to you, sincerely grateful to you for giving that to me, even though it might have been hard for you to communicate that, right? Because you might feel like, oh, I don't want to offend her. I don't want to say something that's going to upset her, or I don't want to ruin this relationship, but I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling, and you don't come forward. Oh, then we're kind of losing something in that relationship. And so it does take a lot on your part to do that. And I'm grateful for that. And hopefully, by expressing that gratitude, you'd be more willing to do it in the future. And then finally, one other element is being able to communicate openly yourself, right? Now, before I go into that, looking for effectively control. Okay, I'm gonna come back to these comments in a second after I touch on this last point, which is being able to communicate openly about your expectations and to discuss possible ways of approaching a similar situation if it should occur. So, let's say, for example, you get certain feedback, and yes, the feedback is worth it, is definitely like you can implement it immediately and see progress and growth and advancement in yourself, and success in your event. But maybe the feedback wasn't delivered great, right? Or maybe somebody cut you off while you were in a group setting to tell you, hey, blah, 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 blah. I don't appreciate that you're doing this. You communicating openly allows you to, again, share your vulnerability and share feedback in return. So maybe it's something like, when you're having a one on one private conversation is ideal. But look, if this should happen again, uh, let's have a signal, right? Let's have a signal so that it doesn't turn into a public dispute in any way that impacts our other team members or our audience. Or I would appreciate, I really appreciate your feedback, but I would appreciate it if maybe you could adjust the tone, right? It would make it easier for me to receive this. I know there's a lot of room for me to grow personally as an individual, and I appreciate your feedback, but the tone with which you said it or the words that you used seemed really harsh and seemed very pointed at me. Maybe there's another way that we can discuss this, right? Or um, if if I do have something to offer, if I know that maybe something that you said is incorrect or not completed information, how would you like me to reply to that? How would you like me to address that gap without you feeling like I'm stepping on your toes, right? Or stepping into your lane. So there's that two-way street that always needs to exist, right? With getting that kind of feedback. And you have to be willing to receive it, but you also have to be willing to deliver it in return. And both parties have to be willing to receive it to really maximize that relationship. Like, I'll give you an example, and this was an interesting thing. This is not related to this event, but this was something that somebody else had said to me, and it just came to mind for this topic, which was a friend of mine who's married, had a baby, and he was saying, "Oh, my wife, she's always bitching about, like, I'm never changing the diapers, and she always has to change the diapers." And so I said, "Finally, okay, fine, I'm going to do it." And guess what? Guess where she was the entire time? Hovering over me, over my shoulder, like telling me, "No, that's not how you do it. This is how you have to do it. No, you're missing this, and no, you're missing that." All of these details. And he said, "You know what? That was the last time I did it." Now, changing diapers, obviously, I think there should be a shared responsibility between parents, but it was interesting to hear this, because one part of me was like, "Oh, I get it, that micromanagement, like feeling someone over your shoulder, telling you what to do or what you're doing wrong." But then another part of me was saying, "Okay, you feel critical about somebody else micromanaging you, but did you never open up to communicating with that person to say, to one, understand that you haven't done it before?" So maybe you could have some guidance and some steps and have somebody kind of monitoring the first round to see if you're doing it right, so you can then go off on your own and do it on your own, and not communicating with that person. So there were like two sides to that, right? Like, you feel like you're being micromanaged, but at the same time, do you need that? Maybe not micromanagement, but do you need that management? Do you need that oversight because you don't have any experience? And if you do have some experience, but you don't have the full experience, and the job does need to be done right, because, with a child with a messy diaper, you can't have anything lingering there for the rest of the day. They're going to end up having an infection of some sort. So there is a standard, there is a minimum standard, and things do need to be done a certain way. Is there a way that you can then communicate to that person and say, "Hey, tell me what I need to do, exactly what I need to do. And then let me see if I'm doing it right." Don't tell me anything while I'm doing it unless I'm doing something wrong. So that openness, right? Like, this person communicated their distaste for the controlling nature of his wife being right there watching him change a diaper when he had never done it before, but never thought about how that could actually be beneficial to him. Right? So there's that two-way street that always needs to be present, and we need to be open to that, and we have to be able to communicate with whoever is in front of us about what we feel is stepping on our toes, but also to understand why they might be stepping on our toes, and to figure out a common path, a respectful, mutually respectful path for communication about how not to do it in a way that hurts, right? And not to do it in a way that feels like it's an infringement. Now, let me get to this couple comments. Guillermo said, "Learn from the experience and be grateful." Absolutely. Share that gratitude, right? Wait, what are the characteristics someone needs to display when effective looking for effectively controlling the outcome that is desired? I might need you to rephrase that question, because I'm not sure I completely understand what you're asking. So I'll give you a moment to do that, and I'm going to continue with my outline for today. So this is these different steps are the steps that we can take when we are actually receiving feedback from somebody, right? Whether we're being controlling, or we are feeling like someone's being controlling, how to communicate that. But we don't always get feedback, right? Sometimes people are hesitant. Like I said, I'm sure I've been in other situations where I'm dominating a conversation or a team meeting or something, and I'm looking at it, from a very positive point of view. My intention is good. I'm not there to step on anyone's toes. I'm just really excited and enthusiastic and I have all this other information to share and I hear something and that makes me want to say something, and I'm going off of this positive energy. And so other people might feel a little bit intimidated to speak out, or maybe they're just hesitant, or they can't find that in to actually say something, or maybe they just don't care to communicate that to me, which would really improve my ability to grow and be a leader and communicate better. So, what do we do in those situations where we don't have that feedback back and forth, right? In those situations, it's important um, to analyze, right? To always take an assessment of our relationships, and we should be doing that regularly, anyways. What is the status of this relationship with this person? What is the history, the recent history, the past history? How have things changed? Why might they be changing? Are these changes for the positive or changes in the negative direction? And is the relationship a two-way street, right? I mean, I've had, um, personal relationships in my past where I was always the one who was saying, like, let's go do this, let's go do that, let's go do this. And the person really never contributed anything. And later, when it ended, I felt resentment. I was like, man, I was always the one who was coming up with ideas for this or that, or dates or fun activities. And this person never came up with anything. And in hindsight, I think about it and say, did I ever give this person an opportunity? Did I make did I create that safe environment for this person to feel like they could contribute, that they could offer ideas and suggestions? Or did I make it seem like it's my way or the highway? So with your relationships, one of those ways is to kind of assess the relationship and say, is this a two-way street? Or are people just kind of saying yes, no to whatever I say, but they never bring in their own ideas. And if they don't, why? Am I managing everything, or am I micromanaging everything? Right? Am I saying, hey, let's do something, let's go out to eat? Or am I saying, let's go out to eat, but exactly at this time, and I only want food that's like this, and I want it to be served in this way, and I want to be the first one to walk through the door, and you have the, like, am I am I micromanaging those details, or am I just saying, yeah, let's go out to eat? What are the ideas? What are the options? Right? And then, of course, in situations where we delegate, and that could also still be in a personal one-on-one relationship, right? Versus a team, or an event or a project that you're managing. Like, do you clearly outline your parameters and then let go after you do that, right? So, for example, let's go back to let's go to organizing an event, you know, and I have somebody who is in charge of location. They're in charge of scouting a location. Now, micromanaging it would be like, oh, tell me every place that you are finding, and I'm going to go through your entire list and detail, what I like or what I don't like. Right? That's kind of micromanaging and really controlling, and I'm in your work every step of the way. Or am I saying, you're in charge of the location. These are the parameters. This is what we need. We need to make sure that it accommodates this much. I would ideally like a space that's open and airy, so not like a basement location, but something with windows. We also need to make sure that that's air conditioning and that the entry is situated here so that people can come in and out from multiple directions. Whatever the details is, I'm outlining parameters, right? So those are the standards that I'm setting. Those are my expectations. But then I am giving you free reign to go find that location based on those standards. So instead of me micromanaging and sitting on top of everything that you're doing and analyzing everything that you're doing, I'm giving you that freedom to do it based on the standards that we discussed and that we agreed upon, right? So when you are in a situation like, similar to going out to eat, right? And I'll give this other example too. Um, Sometimes people are like, oh, you pick the restaurant. If you're going out somewhere to eat, you pick the restaurant. And then they come back to you and say, okay, great, I found this. Oh, no, I don't really want to do that. I want to do this instead. Right? Then they go and look for something else. And they say, yeah, but I don't really like this. So what, instead of doing that, which will eventually lead to that person saying, why'd you even tell me to go pick a restaurant? Why don't you just pick it yourself? Because clearly everything I'm picking is not good enough for you, right? Instead of doing that, If you actually say, "Hey, you pick a restaurant, but can we try to have it this close?" Or um, something that has late night eating, or something with seafood, a good seafood selection, right? You outline some parameters and then you give the freedom to the other person. Any thoughts so far? I know I do have a tendency to like go once I've got my outlines, but I am curious if any of you have any thoughts with regards to these tips for how we can, based on the experience that I had, but maybe you have similar experiences, and based on your own experiences, the tips to kind of change that controlling nature, that desire for control, that desire to try to adjust the outcome of a situation, event, or relationship, or whatnot. The tips to actually change that into a blessing where you do find growth, where you do build a stronger relationship in the process. Hazen said, "The way something is communicated is important. And to be honest, it affects my response. If I discern something said is for my growth, cool. But if it's just critical, then it doesn't warrant a response." A very excellent point. Similar to the Facebook comment that I had mentioned earlier, right? Kind of came in really, really negative. And in that situation, of course, this is more of a creative thing where I don't even understand really what this person is saying. And I don't think it warrants a response anyways. But with the person that I was speaking to, the delivery was a little bit harsh, actually, on that team. My team leader, the delivery was a little bit harsh. But that's that part where communicating back is really important. Like, yes, the delivery was harsh, but the message was good. Now, the message might not have come across with the intention of being constructive or towards my growth. Might have been more with the selfish intention of don't do this again to me, actually, right? Or I'm off your team and I don't want to be a part of this team. That's actually the feeling that I got from the tone and the delivery of the message was, look, if you're going to do this, then do it yourself. I'm not going to do it. Had I responded to it in that way, based on the gut reaction that I was feeling from the person's words and tone, we would that event would have still succeeded, I'm sure, because I would have found someone else or done it myself, which is again controlling the situation. But um, I would have lost a relationship there, right? And so I had to really restrain myself, not get defensive, try and find the silver lining, and then work through the communication issues so that we could arrive at a place that was mutually beneficial to both of our productivity, our growth, and our relationship. A really great point, Hazen. Appreciate it. So, I want to touch on kind of the pros and cons right now. So we've talked about the tips, right? Tips for how we can kind of change that curse into a blessing and how to communicate that properly. There's nothing wrong with being someone who wants to be in control, who's assertive about those things. There are benefits to it. I'm sure we've all experienced that. But of course, there are some pitfalls, right? There are downsides to it as well. So for those of you who are probably like me, that are kind of controlling a little bit, are a little dominating in some situations. The pros in personal and in professional relationships, having standards, asserting them, and kind of setting clear expectations is a good thing because it sets your boundaries, right? It sets the tone for how things should be communicated and worked on. It sets that minimum bar. It avoids confusion, and it establishes kind of a respectful engagement from both people. When you need certain things to take place, if there's something that you really, really want, if you can communicate right? You're going to find a need to communicate rather. So if you need something and you want to make sure that nobody screws up and you want to be in control of that, you will find ways to communicate that need to other people that you're working with or that you're in a relationship with so that they understand. And that need for control kind of indirectly impacts and improves your ability to communicate. Because if you communicate it poorly, you will notice that you did not get the outcome that you desired. In fact, you got something completely different. You will be questioning yourself, like, how I said this and how the hell did this person bring me this instead? Well, what was wrong with my directions? What was wrong with the things that I had expressed in the first place when I requested this? And so it improves our communication. When we take control of some aspects, not all aspects of relationships, tasks, events, projects, our lives, it means we're taking responsibility, right? It means we're taking responsibility. And that forces us to show up and to showcase our skills, our sense of integrity, our experience, whatever we've learned, and our ability to excel at certain tasks. So if we didn't take control and we just waited for somebody else to tell us exactly what to do, where exactly are we showing up as individuals? So when we do say, you know what, I'm going to take charge of this, I am going to take charge of this aspect. Well, what does that entail? Like, what is the outcome? What is the goal you're setting for this event, this project, this task, this relationship? What is your contribution? And that's what you're responsible for. So it does actually develop our sense of responsibility. And then finally, one of the last pros that I'm going to mention, but I am sure there are many more, which, of course, if you have something to add to the list of pros of being in control and being assertive, put it in the comments. Whether you're here live or if you're watching the replay, obviously, right? Anytime you can always comment on these videos. I'm always checking the comments. But if you're in a position of if you are in a position of authority where you can delegate, you are in control and you are creating opportunities and you are empowering other people by saying, this is something I'm giving to you to do, right? And that is beautiful. And we have many opportunities created for us. That's how we grow. Right? I mean, when I was younger at an office job and I was office manager, the person who hired me said, "Okay, this is your role. This is what we need to do. Here are some of the standards, and here you go." Right? And that was an opportunity for me to learn how to manage that office. If that person said, "Okay, I need you to sit here and now I'm going to tell you what to do. And when this person calls, you're going to," like, every single detail and micromanage everything. I don't know that I would have been learning in that process. I would have just been sitting with my butt in a seat, you know, like a robot doing exactly what I was instructed to. And that kind of takes me into the cons, right? The cons of being like super controlling and assertive. The biggest con, because what are we controlling, right? Who are we being assertive with? We're being assertive with other people, right? And so the biggest con is the negative impact on our relationships, whatever relationship that is, personal, professional, familial, acquaintances, whatever. It can negatively impact those relationships, and sometimes it can completely damage them. That's the biggest con, because it ends up removing necessary healthy elements like creativity, like cooperation, collaboration, and communication, which is essential, right, to a healthy relationship. Like, we cannot identify healthy relationships without saying that they are collaborative, that the people are cooperate, that they're respectful, that there's creative input from both sides, that they're openly communicating, honestly communicating all the time. Another con of it is that when we're excessively controlling or always asserting our demands, we're kind of stepping on, infringing on another person's autonomy, right? Their ability to be an individual, a unit of themselves, and to make decisions and act out on those decisions and show up similarly the way we are showing up, right? Taking control. And it can create a sense of inadequacy, right? Because, like that example of my friend with his wife, right? He just felt like, oh, I can't do it. The way she's telling me I'm doing everything wrong, I can't do it. And so I don't feel adequate as a person to do this particular task. And then as a result, in that relationship, what he's mentioned and what I could definitely sense in his tone was this sense of resentment, right? So now he's not motivated. Basically, he said that was the first and last time. That I don't I don't know if he did eventually try it again, not sure, but he was quite pissed at that moment. But it was like the first and last time. So no motivation to try again. Why would you? This person's basically trying to control everything that you're doing after they've delegated a task to you. Your performance is not great, right? You resent the person, like you as a person who's feeling like you're being controlled is resenting that person because they are constantly telling you what to do. And then later, that person who's telling you what to do all the time starts to feel resentful too. Right. Like I said before, in, relationships, personal relationships, where I always felt like I was coming up with ideas to do something. I didn't think about whether I was making space, creating space for the other person to provide input for ideas too. And so they were resenting me for always coming up with a plan. And I was resenting them for always having to come up with the plan. Right. I felt like, why am I doing all the work? When in reality, I'm not letting anybody else do the work, even though I'm inviting them to do the work. Right. It's like a little catch 22 sometimes there. All right, so let me I have a really good, well, I was thinking about this today, this analogy with horses. So I'm going to touch on that in a second. So let me just address some of the comments. Hazen said, exactly. I feel like critiques usually come from a control place. I prefer being called aside. That feels more genuine. Absolutely. And typically, if you're in any situation, if you're exercising control, or if you need to kind of share some sort of constructive criticism, it's always best to do it one on one in a private place if possible. And if it's not done in that way, does not mean that the relationship has to be damaged. What needs to then be done is the communicate in return step, right? Which is, I appreciate it. You pull them aside and show them how it's done, right? That's you kind of exercising some control over the situation by saying, you know, thank you for your comment. I appreciate what you said. I acknowledge what you said. I'm grateful for this feedback. However, in the future, if something like this should come up again, let's talk about it outside of the team meeting. Let's have a call, let's sit down for a coffee or something like that, so we can respect each other as individuals and we can grow from this. And then Guillermo said the pros should be that takes responsibility off other shoulders, and a con could be that it pushes people away when excessive control is put in. Absolutely. The responsibility element actually is also pro and con, right? We take the responsibility of other people's shoulders, but the question is, are you taking too much responsibility? In which case, that would be a con, right? That's another way to look at it too. And then Wade, you said, for someone that wants to take control of the outcome of a project, what are some of the factors that determine the success desired? Um, well, for a project that involves other people, collaboration is really important. It's important to make sure, first of all, if you already have a set exactly what you want to do, Fiverr, I don't even know, freelancer, right? You hire someone, you say, I need this done in this way by this time. Here's your money, get it done, right? There are services for that. Like when I was doing my logo, when I had my logo designed, there was a time when I tried the logo designs and I didn't know what I wanted, and I kind of put it out there, and people were giving me ideas, and none of them really matched what I wanted. Finally, when I had the vision exactly of what I wanted, I was very clear in my brief to the designer. I was like, here's an example. This is what I like from this example. Here's another example. I really do not like this. I do not want any part of this in my existing logo. What I would like is, I defined all of these things, and then I just gave that to that person. And honestly, second try, the logo was ready. And that's the logo I've been using for, I don't even know now how many years. So if you really want to take control of the outcome, then you might want to be very clear in outlining exactly what you want, by when, how you want it done, and any other details you can add to that, and then going and finding someone to just do the work. If you are doing a project where there are multiple people that have their own jobs to do, kind of in that, especially when it comes to an event, right? Event planning is a big one. If you want to take control of that situation, again, it'll be about setting your expectations, setting the standards, understanding what it is you're looking for in that outcome, being as clear as you can in defining that, and then um, finding people, right, to do the job. If they are not qualified, you might need to be more involved. Do you want that? Are those people okay with that? Right? There are a couple of things to assess. Like, if I bring someone into play to do a task that they have never done before, then I'm going to be hesitant, and I'm probably going to be wanting to micromanage whatever it is that they're doing to make sure they're doing everything right. So that's okay. You can bring someone in and train them up, or you look for someone who has some of that experience so that you can just kind of have reports, intermittent reports, versus every step of the way is getting assessed and analyzed and providing feedback for. Um, John, I'm gonna actually bring this to this analogy. I don't know really how I came up with this, but it's like an analogy of owning horses, okay, and teaching or inviting people to ride these horses. These are all your horses, and these horses could be events, could be projects, could be tasks, could be relationships, anything. So the people you choose could either be complete newbies, right? Brand new, never ever ridden a horse, maybe never even seen a horse. Okay. Or they could have some experience. Maybe they rode a pony at the state fair, or have ridden a donkey, right? Or one of those machine bulls or something. Maybe they have some experience. Excessive control is inviting them to get on the horse, but instead of supporting them from the sidelines and saying, okay, you're going to hold the reins like this, or being on a horse yourself and showing them how to hold the reins and showing the small directional leads to make the horse move a certain way, you get on the horse with them, right? And you hold the reins maybe with their hands and say, oh, this is how you're supposed to do it. Now, there can only be one rider. You can't have two people trying to lead the horse in different. The horse is not going to go in multiple. It's going to go in one way. Whoever's a stronger rider, whoever has a more dominant lead on the reins, and the person, like, let's say you're two people on this horse, maybe they enjoy the feeling of like, oh, I'm on a horse for the first time. This is such a cool experience. But if you're inviting them to ride a horse, they're eventually going to want to experience that themselves. How do I get this horse? How do I move this horse forward? And if you think of having multiple horses, right? Because again, none of us, if horses are our relationships and projects and tasks and events and all these things, all of us have multiple horses. So if you have multiple horses and you have multiple riders, right? These are the people you're delegating things to. It's impossible to hold the reins of all of these horses, be on the backs of every horse. You just physically, humanly impossible. So we have to be able to let go. We have to be able to instruct from the sideline, demonstrate, lead by example, but also ultimately let them go. Because sometimes I feel the The concern, the reason we sometimes come in with this desire for control is we feel like if I give you the reins to my horse, this becomes your horse. And that's the part that we need to be able to say to ourselves, these are still my horses. This is still my farm. This is still my land. No one's leaving this land, right? They want to be on one of my horses. You're in this land. You're in this space. If I want to give the reins to somebody, I'm not giving my horse to them. I am just giving them control to guide that horse to whatever it is that I've asked them to do. Take the horse and plow this field. That's what I'm giving them, not giving them the horse. And so we need to be able to understand the difference between giving somebody our horse and giving them the reins to controlling one of those horses. And the other element of it is, just like any relationship or project, or if you're managing a team, if you have a terrible rider, right, who's really not doing any of the things that you told them to do, you can remove them. You can replace them. You can get somebody else, right? If you're in a relationship, if you're got a team and someone's not performing up to the standard that you set, you can say, listen, I'm sorry, I don't think this is working out. And I do need this done, or I do need this in my life, and I'm going to look for somebody else. Right. But if you do give those reins to someone, you've got to be willing to let go. Right. You got to let them ride that horse so that the horse is not confused either. Right. By like two people on the reins and one's kind of pulling here and one's kind of pulling there, because that's the same thing that kind of, I guess, is what my team leader felt. He was like, well, I'm supposed to be the team leader, but here you are, kind of asserting your authority. And the team that I'm leading is uncertain of who is the leader of this team. And yes, I'm the organizer of the event, but I'm not the leader of that team, right? I have given those reins to this person. Event is still mine, right? And I had to really look at it that way. So I don't know if this horse analogy works for all of you, but think of it like that. Like, think of those moments where you are exercising control. And what are you exercising control over? Call that your horse, right? And if it involves somebody else, are you on that horse with them, holding the reins, but also telling them how to do something? Or are you possibly on your own horse, showing them how to ride a horse, leading by example? And then are you able to let them go and not feel like you're losing control and ownership of your horse, but actually inviting somebody else to ride your horses with you? I don't know if that worked. um, Edwin said, my mom used to micromanage me with many things. It didn't really help. I learned eventually for real when I moved out, and this reflected back into how I took most of the leadership roles at work, relationships, and even dancing. Through dancing, I actually learned to let go and realize something beautiful, creative, or a better idea can come out. Absolutely, and that's that element that I was talking about before, about one of the pros, right? When you're in control, where you have the ability to give someone else autonomy and agency over something. So perfect example, right? Parents with kids, where you do everything for them. You're controlling exactly how their clothes are folded and put away and all of this stuff. Like, what are they learning in the process? Right? If you, however, said, look, you're responsible for your own laundry, and then you see their clothes and they're still dirty, you say, okay, wait, these are supposed to be clean. What did you do exactly? Oh, I did this and that. Okay, well, let me show you. This is the steps. You put the detergent in first, and then you put this or put that, and then you got to make sure that you hang dry them. Don't leave them in the washer or in the dryer, right? You explain these things, and then again, let go of those reins and see how they do, because ultimately what you're robbing them of is the ability to grow, you know that's basically what it all comes down to. Our personal growth as individuals, and what we can contribute to other relationships in our lives, personal and professional, depends on our ability to take on commitments, right? To take on tasks and to prove ourselves that we are capable. It requires a sense of autonomy and agency, like the feeling that we are in control of the actions and the outcome, right? That we've been assigned to this lane, and we have full control over this lane. And it requires making mistakes and learning from them. I mean, I had agency over that event. I had people above me. They weren't all up in my grill, even though I was kind of in the grill of one of my team leaders, right? And that was one of the mistakes that I felt I made, but I learned from it. And it requires guidance from those with more experience, but it requires a certain form of communicating, uh, effective communication that has a tone of respect, right? And kindness and compassion and intention for your growth. And it requires being receptive, right? Our growth depends on us being receptive to feedback, like regardless of the delivery. Of course, there's feedback that we prefer, right? A delivery, a form of tone and words and timing that we prefer. But it's up to us to be receptive to the lesson beyond the delivery, especially when that delivery is not ideal. And we need to be able to communicate effectively, right? We got to be able to balance this, our needs for control, with being flexible. And that is what contributes to our growth. So basically, showing up with integrity and excellence in everything that we do, but where others are involved, provide them with the opportunity to do the same so that we can have that harmony in our relationships. Because the goal isn't really to eliminate control. Like I don't think we ever want to just completely give up control and say, oh, I'm not controlling at all in anything, because then you've lost your autonomy. Like, oh, if you're not in control of anything, then somebody else is in control of it for you. So still want to have control over things, but understand where collaboration, cooperation, other creative inputs, right? Other modes of input and ideas can contribute to a better outcome. And how can you be receptive to that, right? So that you can balance it in a way that enhances our lives. So for all of you, I mean, just looking at your life, this was, again, like I said, this was a reflection based on a recent event, and it put things into perspective for me because, again, this person said it to me, but I am certain that I have done this in other engagements too. It's just it wasn't told to me before, or it wasn't expressed to me for whatever reason, whether they were intimidated, didn't care enough to say something, didn't want to say something, out of spite. Who knows what the reason is? The fact that this person communicated to me made me reflect and say, what other situations in my life have I been in where I might be too controlling and too dominating? And how can I adjust that? Because if this person felt it and this could have ruptured our relationship, have I done any damage elsewhere? And if so, how can I repair that damage? And how can I improve myself to prevent any future damage? Right? That's ultimately what it's about. So for everybody here who's listening in this live or the replay, like thinking about your own life, are there places, are there moments, are there relationships, are there projects that you're involved in with other people where you are controlling, too controlling? And how could you mitigate that? And how can you balance that by being more flexible and communicating in a way that allows you to feel like you're not compromising your standards, but you're also giving room for another person to be an autonomous, creative, collaborative individual? That is my thoughts for today's topic. Again, before I kind of like sum all of that up, I mentioned before the Master Your Multiples program is open right now, spins.magnagopal.com. It is available for enrollment until February 14th. So Valentine's Day, last day to open the hearts and open the program. It is a 14-week program. First week is intro call, setting up the schedule, getting you all situated, and then 13 weeks of instruction with bi-weekly coaching calls. So you get 6 coaching calls, one-on-one with me, video, You submit your videos, you submit your forms. I will work through them on my own time so that when we get on a phone call, I'll be able to break down everything and give you personalized feedback throughout the program. It's a really great program. I'm really proud of it, and I'm very proud of the success and achievements of the students that have gone through the program throughout, from beginning to end, submitting their videos, submitting their feedback forms, and attending all of the coaching calls. So that is open, spins.magnagopal.com. Just go to my website. You can find it there. And yeah, in your lives, take a look at the relationships that you have, see how you're approaching them, and see if anyone's providing feedback, or see if people's reactions or responsiveness towards you has changed. How has it changed? Why has it changed? And how could you adjust your own behavior to create for a more favorable relationship and outcome? Ultimately, that's what all of this is about, right? That me with these live chats is sharing my personal experiences, how I'm using things that could have been really negative, that I could have just been like, oh my God, I can't believe he said this. And who the hell does he think he is? And I could have gone off that way, right? That's maybe what I was feeling in my gut, but that's not what I did. And not only did I not do that, not only did I learn from that experience, not only did I build a stronger relationship with that person and my other team leaders, and share all those steps of, exercising restraint, sharing gratitude, communicating back and forth with that person, but I've also created a live chat topic out of it, right? Like that's how much reflection I did on one comment from somebody. So I am sure we get lots of feedback and lots of comments, and maybe not even directed as feedback, maybe just a comment in passing because someone felt something and they couldn't restrain themselves and just said, hey, you're just controlling, right? And we're like, whatever, what are you talking about? And we just dismiss it and ignore it. Maybe we need to take some time and reflect on those passing comments too, and see if they hold any weight. And if they do, how can we improve? Because we can always improve. We can always become better. And that should be our goal, not just for personal growth, but for the contribution that we make into life, into all of our other relationships. The better we are, the better is the person we bring to the equation. And as a result, someone receiving that will often become a better version of themselves and give that to us as well. So everybody benefits through reflection, right? Reflection, adaptation, adjustments, and gratitude and growth. Wade said, how does this program benefit a dancer that doesn't spin when social? Okay, so we're talking about mastery of multiples. With spins, there are so many elements that impact how you can do your spins, right? There are a bunch of things that we work on through the program about your technique, about your balance, about how to control your momentum, how to generate, accelerate, decelerate, and stop that momentum, how to engage your muscles properly and effectively so you're always in control of your body and your movements. And all of those things apply not just to spins, but to your dancing in general. So even if you went through the program and decided, you know what, multiple spins aren't for me, is not to say that that program would be a waste. In fact, everything that you learn through each stage of the program, you will be able to apply to your regular dancing. I had a couple of students who started going out dancing and found that they were putting in a couple of different turns into their footwork sequences. In fact, their footwork was sharper. Their styling was sharper because they knew how to engage the muscles correctly, because they knew how to connect their foot with the floor correctly, right? So even though the spins might not have been coming out in their dancing, everything from the program, from the Mastery of Multiples program, was still being able to apply, still being applied to their dancing in other ways. I hope that answers your question. And then Hazen said, this ties in with that post you made about having agency. And it's hard to feel that agency if someone else is dominating a relationship or interaction or experience. Absolutely. Yep. That is the truth. So for all of us, Right, let's check ourselves and see if we're being excessively controlling. And, even if you are, you might not be that person in every relationship. So that's why we really have to assess each relationship individually. Some relationships we're controlling, some relationships other people are more dominating, right? And if we're not assessing them individually, we're not really sure where we need to make changes, maybe where we need to provide feedback, um, and how we can work on our personal growth. So that being said, this replay will be available on YouTube. Maybe you're watching the replay now, if you're not here live right now, obviously. And of course, if you enjoyed this topic, if you enjoyed the live chats, leave a subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like. And if you're feeling extra generous, there's the tip button at the bottom in the description to buy a coffee. I would very much appreciate that, or a tea, whatever you want to gift it as. And of course, if you are looking for more bite-sized information, check out the Empowered with Magna podcast. It's an audio podcast available on Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And we go into smaller sections that are really concise about a certain lesson. As Hazen said, this is related to the other clip that I posted about having agency, and how important that is. And a recent podcast was about how we prove to ourselves that we are capable, and how we can really work on that, building up that confidence and showing up with that confidence to excel and to recover if we need. Guillermo, you asked, do you need to be an advanced dancer to take the program? No, you do not. However, I wouldn't say that the program is for an absolute beginner dancer. If you don't even know your basics, I don't think that this is where to start. But if you do know your basics, if you've already gone out dancing, you have as a lead maybe a couple of turn patterns in your repertoire, you can lead. You've know your simple basic turns like a right turn, left turn, you can definitely take this program. You do not need to be a super high advanced dancer. This program breaks every single thing down from the very, very start, from rotations, half rotations, single spins, double spins, triple spins, and then technique to do multiple spins. So you will be taken care of. And of course, like I said, as long as you have your basics, some basic timing, understanding of the dance, and have gone out dancing, done some simple turns, right turns, left turns, I will be guiding you throughout the program. So you'll always have me to kind of look at your videos, see what you're doing specifically, and provide any kind of guidance, feedback, and corrective techniques to that. And that being said, I am going to close out our live chat. Again, I'm Magna Gopal. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate this opportunity. It is a privilege for me to have a platform where I can share these thoughts and these lessons. I do hope you find them useful. I hope you can apply something or everything from these live chats. And of course, if you have the time, I would very much appreciate your feedback in a feedback form, magnagopal.com/feedback. Or you can just go to the contact section on my website, and there's the link to the feedback form for the live chat. You can just fill it out there. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a comment, like, share it with your friends if you found it super useful. I hope you all have a lovely day, and I will see you next month for live chat number 36. That is going to be 3 official years of doing this live chat every month. It's been a joy. It really has. And, making sure I present these live chats in a topic focused way, in an organized and structured way, has improved my ability, to organize and structure my thoughts. Right. So I appreciate all of you being here. I appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your input and your questions, because it makes me want to deliver better quality. And so you are leveling up my game. And I hope in turn, I am doing the same for you. And with that, I wish you all a lovely rest of your week. And again, don't forget to check it out, the Mastery of Multiples program, spins.magnagopal.com, or just go to my website and check out the courses. You will see it available for enrollment right now. Again, we will be just 14 days, and then we'll be closing it out The availability is limited because it does take a lot of time, not just in coaching calls, but also my personal time to prepare for those coaching calls, reviewing videos, taking notes of my own for each of my students. And yeah, my life is a little busy, so I do not have time to take on a lot of students in this program. I want to make sure I can dedicate my attention and my focus and my efforts to a select few that I can manage, that I can be in control of. All right, folks, have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you next month.